Hello, Internet. It is I, Malik Aaron, and welcome back to Box Office Predictions. Today we're going to be talking about Call Jane. So, as usual, we're going to be going over the pros and cons. So, let's get to it. Pros. Uh, well, let's first start with our two leading ladies here, Elizabeth Banks and Sigourney Weaver. Now, Sigourney Weaver, I already talked about her several weeks back when it came to the movie. What was it? God. The Good, yeah, The Good House. There we go. So I already talked about her, so I'm going to make this brief. I'm going to skim through this. Sigourney Weaver, obviously, our most iconic role is, being Ellen Ripley in the Alien movies. I mean, Ellen Ripley is considered one of the greatest female characters in pop culture history, so that's obviously a good thing to have Sigourney Weaver in your movie. There's also, her roles in the original Ghostbusters movies, 1 and 2. Where is it? There it is. Holes, where um, her character, like when she was a kid, like her grandpa made her dig holes, and then she was like, "I'm tired of this, grandpa," and their grandpa's like, "Well, that's too damn bad." Absolute classic, right there. Um, but yeah, she's been in a lot of stuff. Easily recognizable face, so she's definitely a pro here, in my opinion. Then we got Elizabeth Banks. This one's a little more tricky. I mean, sure, she is very recognizable. She's been in a lot of big stuff, namely Pitch Perfect and The Hunger Games. Uh, she's also like a collaborator with like James Gunn. A lot. I know. What was it? Gotta scroll all the way down. Slither. That's one, definitely. And she was also in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. I forgot about that. She was like one of the staff at Daily Bugle. I completely forgot about that. Wow. She's been in a lot of stuff, but her reputation is nowhere near as good as Sigourney Weaver's. But we'll talk about that later when we get to the cons. And I'll definitely be mentioning Charlie's Angels a lot because that's where like a lot of the backlashes came from. But she's still a recognizable face. Both are recognizable faces. It's usually better to have a recognizable face than a non-recognizable face because it might draw more people into the movie. So having these two here, I'm going to consider that to be a pro, albeit a very minor pro. Another pro is the reviews. Looking at Rotten Tomatoes now, it's at 80%. It is not displaying the audience score, so I can't comment on that. But I mean, 80%, that's pretty good. I mean, how is that a bad thing, really? But then again, reviews, they can matter and sometimes they don't matter at all. You know, Black Adam had like a 40 something percent on Rotten Tomatoes and still opened pretty decently. I mean, it's by far and away the biggest opening of the fall, the biggest in summer. And they got a movie like Bros, which had like a 90 some percent and completely tank hard. So reviews don't mean everything, but it's usually better to have good reviews than bad reviews most of the time. So good review score, I'm going to consider that to be a pro. Another pro is what this movie's about and the timing of it. So this movie is primarily about abortion. And if you know, as you know, you should probably know because it was a massive thing. Back in summer, like it was leaked from like the Supreme Court that they wanted to basically revoke Roe versus Wade. And what that is it gives, the woman the right to have the abortion, like a pregnant woman, the right to have an abortion. It's been there since like 1973. So almost 50 years. And then in June, like the thing got leaked in May, but in June they made it official that Roe versus Wade was revoked. It was no more. And now a lot of states like they had like trigger laws, well, where if Roe versus Wade was revoked, um, they could just basically outlaw abortion, and it led And depending on who you are and what your beliefs are, you were either celebrating this or you were pissed the fuck off. um, and it was a big deal, big moment, massive moment. And so obviously a movie like this coming out now can definitely be considered timely, relevant, topical. Those are usually good things. So I would definitely say the timing of this movie is definitely a pro because like I mean how could you not say it's not timely considering what's happened this year? So I consider that to be a pro. Another pro is that I have seen ads for this movie. They kind of popped up at the last minute, but I have seen them, which is more than I can say for a lot of movies that I have to cover. So I consider that to be a pro. The fact that they were willing to play ads for this movie. But that's it with pros. Cons. I already mentioned the topic of abortion, right? It's relevant. But that doesn't mean it's, super appealing to the masses. It's one of those topics that people don't like to talk about because if you do talk about it, it's just going to lead to a bunch of arguments, right? You know, it's kind of like last year with like The Last Duel, how about that movie was about, well, it revolved around rape. And that's not exactly something people want to watch in the movies. They don't want to. It's not exactly a. This doesn't exactly sound like a fun night out at the movies, watching a movie like that. So yeah, abortion is not exactly the most appealing subject in the world. I think the most notable abortion movie that I can think of was, where is it? Unplanned, but the problem with that is that that was like the opposite, where Call Jane is kind of like the story of like a pregnant woman, like her pregnancy was risky, was could kill her. So that's kind of more pro abortion. Unplanned was absolutely anti abortion. So that's definitely not a good comparison. But there hasn't been too many abortion themed movies because again, it's just not it's just not a appealing subject. Um, so yeah, the subject of abortion could be a turnoff for a lot of people. So that's definitely a con. Even though it's relevant, it could still be a turnoff. So that's a con. Another con is that the last weekend of October is historically slow. It's very dead. Because usually October is very front loaded, where all the big movies come out like the first 2 weeks, and then everything just falls off after that. This year's been a little different. It started slow, and then it improved, and now it's gonna fall off. So yeah, but yeah, usually last weekend of October is not a great time to release a movie, especially this close to Halloween. That's especially bad. Granted, it's not like Halloween is taking place over the weekend. It's on Monday, but still, last weekend of October, bad time to release a movie. So I consider that to be a con. Another con is that this movie's going up against two other, adult themed movies in the form of Tar and Till. And having all these adult themed Oscar baiting movies competing against each other is a bad thing because what usually happens is either one of them falls through the cracks or they all kill each other. And I feel like Call Jane has the least has the it's the least likely to break out of the three. So yeah, that direct competition and the fact that most people are literally going to see Black Adam and nothing else, that's bad. So I'm going to consider that to be a con. Another con I can think of, trying to think. Oh yeah, well, might as well talk about this. Elizabeth Banks. Ooh, this woman has done a number on her reputation. Let me tell you. And it all really stemmed from Charlie's Angels, primarily. The Charlie's Angels reboot, nobody asked for, nobody wanted, but it was released anyway. She was very much responsible for that movie. I think she She directed it, produced it. I think she starred in it. It was all her. Yeah, directed, written, produced, all her. And the movie did horrendous box office wise. It was an absolute bomb. And one of the primary reasons why that was is because a lot of people, like she said, or now I don't know what she said, but the whole gist of the movie, it was very much like pro women, like hardcore feminist, the type of feminism that is an instant turnoff for a lot of people. And there was like I remember reading these articles, people like, "Oh, straight white men, this movie isn't for you," which is literally the worst thing you can say ever. You're literally just gatekeeping a movie. Like gatekeeping a movie like that, it only ends in disaster. And that's what happened. It led to disaster. And then Elizabeth Banks came out and she took no responsibility. She took like no accountability. And she basically just Loki just blamed men for the result, even though most of the audience that showed up, I believe it was primarily female. So you could argue the females, they didn't show up either. So yeah, that was a whole big mess, and it really was just a black mark on her reputation. That's never really went away. Like to the point where if I see her, it low key makes me ill. It just she's one of those celebrities I just can't stand anymore. Like I used to like her, but now I'm over her. I'm just she literally turns me off. Her presence turns me off. So and that I'm pretty sure that's the case for a lot of people. So yeah, what happened with Charlie's Angels, how she responded. I think recently she tried to like backpedal it, but doesn't change the fact that Charlie's Angels did a number on her reputation because she was directly involved. She was directed it, wrote it, produced it, starred in it, all her. And because of that movie's just embarrassing disaster, it did a number on her reputation. So Elizabeth Banks' reputation is definitely a con here. All because of Charlie's Angels 2019. Well, maybe not exclusively that, but it mainly stems from that. Uh anything else? I think that's it. Well, I guess the fact that like the ads played so late. Like I had no idea this movie existed until like a few days ago when ads started popping. I was like, "What the heck is this?" I mean, that's better than some of these other movies that have no ads and they just appear. But still, if you're gonna sell a movie, you're gonna have to do it in advance. Like you need like several weeks of ads. That way, people know it exists. 1 week of ads isn't gonna cut it. So I'm gonna consider that to be a con, just like relatively limited marketing. So opening weekend, I'd be shocked if this did over $1 million because I think it's only like 1,000 theaters. I think I'm going to check that. Theater counts. Where is it? Yeah, a little over 1,000. Obviously, that's not great. That's not ideal. And it basically, less theaters you have, the less successful you'll likely be. So I'm gonna say its opening weekend's gonna be between 500,000 and $1 million, somewhere in that range, and its total might reach like 2 million ish dollars. That's what I'm going with. That's what I'm sticking with, and yeah, that's it for Call Jane. Now we have 3 more movies to talk about because these Hollywood people who make these scheduling decisions, they really hate my guts. We got Pray for the Devil, we got Tar, and we got Till. So we got all those, and that's it for October. So yeah. Anywho, yeah, that's it. That's all. Make sure to subscribe, like this video, leave a comment, turn notifications, share the whole drill. We'll check out more videos like this. Got playlists on the homepage for all previous prediction videos I made this year for all the big movies, the smaller movies. I think I already mentioned The Good House. There's like a bunch of others that have come out since. I'm trying to remember. There's too many. I did a bunch in September. But if you want to check out any of those, you can go on that playlist, watch them all, and yeah, go do that. There's also the canceled series where I go over all the movies that were supposed to come out but didn't. Never talked about Call Jane once, so yeah. I've made, I believe, 163. Yes, 163. That's the number of canceled episodes I've made. I'm gonna check really quick on that. 163, yeah. So you have plenty to watch. So, binge. I highly encourage you binge it from beginning to now. Go do that. There's also box office recaps where I go over the box office results for any particular month. October recap will come out within the first 2 weeks of November, so stay tuned for that. But if you want to watch any of the past recap videos I've done on the channel, you can go right ahead. And yeah, that's it. That's all. I am out and goodbye.